So let's talk about other types of collisions. Now we have looked here and we've talked about circle collisions, and we can set them up. Many of these collisions we can actually set up. The problem is that designing everything from scratch, it's okay, but certain things when you have, say, collisions with different shapes. If we have a collision with a rectangle and a circle, that becomes more difficult to do. If we have a collision against a square or a circle with a line, that's more difficult to do. If we have a circle collision with a triangle, that's more difficult to do. So we want to play around with different types of collisions to have our hitboxes fit our objects much better. So we can play around with these to do this. Now, this is where libraries actually become very, very useful. So I'm going to go into P5JS and I'm going to point this out. So we have libraries. We've already used a sound library. Now we're going to actually use a collision library. Now there's a number of different ways to do collisions. You could actually import a physics-based engine, and then you could have collisions and have it, compute by itself. And this is also kind of how they start doing 3D stuff for when you're doing like first-person shooters and stuff. For collisions that you don't have to have the stuff rotate, we can do a number of things that's already here. So this is a library, meaning that somebody has created it for P5JS, for people to use for P5JS. Okay, so if we want to use it, then we can put it in our sketch. So you could download it, but since we run straight off the browsers, the best way to do this is actually through CDN links or through stuff that's on GitHub. Now, not everything is open up for GitHub for you guys. Only a couple pages are opened up based off of libraries that we could potentially use. Okay, so this is what I want to copy for our stuff. Now, we want to copy it. We want to make sure that this is put after P5JS, okay? So you see here it's saying you need to use it after, okay? So we could do either one of these, and it's basically built off of this book. So this is a really good resource. It is in your guys' resources, but here's a bunch of different shapes. We can look at different ways that we could do shapes. Now, specifically, some of the easiest ones that we've already talked about doing distances, point against a circle or circle, circle. Those are almost exactly the same, where we are basically using the Pythagorean theorem to get straight line distance from one point to the next. And when the radius is greater than the distance between the point and the center of the shape, then we have a collision. Okay, and the side doesn't matter. We just need to know that there is a collision. So the stuff is already being computed. If I went to circle, circle, again, now we're taking the distance between, it's got to be less than both of the radiuses added together. Okay, so this is the resource. Someone built it in the library. We are going to use it following their guidelines. Okay, which would make things easier later on. If we want to do a pinball game, we're going to have a circle reacting with a rectangle. Okay, so let's look here. Okay, that's what we have to copy. We have to paste it here. So let me show you where that is. So when we're looking here, we're going to open this up, and I'm going to open up the index.html file. Now, this is P5JS. This is the sound library. It had to be added afterwards. We need to add it after the P5JS. It doesn't matter if it's added before or after the sound. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it so I have this, I'm making sure that I'm doing proper format. And then I can just copy this, copy, go back, and I'm going to highlight everything that's inside those quotes, and then I'm going to paste. Okay, so that should pull up. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to use it to do for colliding a point to a circle. Okay, so that is the function that we had called. This is also a reference. And when we write it, we say collide point circle. We need to give it its parameters. So here is saying what it needs. It needs a point X and a point Y. We need the circle X, the circle Y, and the diameter. Okay, so that's what we're going to pass in. And this works assuming that ellipse mode is still center. This also works using these libraries, assuming that we're drawing all rectangle shapes from the top left. Okay, if you start drawing them from the center, you can't use this library, or you'd have to modify stuff to make sure that your hitboxes are calculating correctly. Okay, so now that we have it, we can technically just call this. So let's create a simple shape object. Let's say we want to have, let's call it an item. Okay. Now maybe we're doing some type of menu screen where we can drag like items that we own, or maybe we're doing something like that. So other ways that we could do it is, the point could represent basically like a rocket or a missile, and we just need to see if it hit us. If it did, we take a life. So there's multiple ways that we could do this, but we'll do it like this for right now. So we create the item. So the item's going to have an X. Let's just do the middle of the screen. We'll do height divided by 2. Size we'll say is 50. Color, we'll just give it a color. So let's just make it green. 0, I don't want it to be full green, so how about 25? 255 and 25. I don't know, 35. We want to display it. So we'll display at, we fill it with this .x, or excuse me, this .color, and then we'll do a circle. This .x, this .y, this .size. Okay. Now if I was doing an image on top of this, again, I might end up having to have additional attributes based off what my size is. I want to check if there is a collision. So we want something for if we are basically hovering over it with our mouse, or let's say clicked on. How about clicked or selected? Selected would probably be better. Selected. We need to make sure that we separate all of our attributes with commas. Selected. We want to build this collision. Okay, so that is, here's our collision, and we have to have that point. And the X, Y, and the diameter. Okay, so we're going to go here. This is going to return true or false. So we're going to say, instead of this .x, this .y, this that's my diameter. So this would be this .size. All right. That's going to return a true or false reading the library. Okay. Okay, so if we have a hit, if we have a collision, then we could do something with it. So in this case, I might want it to, change. This is a function, and then I can check if we are selecting it and maybe we press the mouse down. That's when I want to maybe pick it up. Okay. So this, maybe all I want to do is just return if it's been hit or not. So I could do something like this where I could return. This will return true or false. And then this selected, this is basically just a wrapper function where I'm just going to return true. So if I do this and this returns true, that it's been selected, then I can make sure that the mouse has been clicked, and then I could update the X and Y position of that shape to the same X and Y of the mouse. And then once they let go of that, then it will be whatever that position was. Okay, so let's write another function just so we have an understanding of this. Actually, we should probably test at this point. Let's draw our item.display. I don't need this anymore. Okay, so we are displaying. Now let's check. So I want to do a console.log, and I want to say item.selected. Okay. And I wanted to print in the console. It's going to be either true or false if we're colliding. So we're not colliding with it. True. Check that out. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so it is working. Going over it. All right, so now we have selected it. Now we want to, let's call an update. So we're going to write an update, and this update will have a conditional in here. We're going to say if this dot selected, if that's true, and the let's find something for mouse is pressed, I think is what we want. So let's see, mouse. We want some mouse is pressed. Let's see. If mouse is pressed, yeah, so if that's true and it's selected, then we have it. So mouse is selected. So now we could grab it. So if that's true, then this dot x is going to be equal to this mouse x. This dot y is going to be equal to mouse y. So if we let go of it, theoretically, it should no longer update this, and it will keep its original position. So we're just checking if we are hitting it. If we are, then we're updating for a new x and y. Okay, so instead of us doing here, let's do in our display, before we draw anything, let's just do this dot update. Okay, so I'm still having a collision. Oh, what happened? Mouse is selected is not defined. Ooh. Mouse is pressed. Why did I write that? That was silly. Mouse is pressed. Let's try again. Okay. So it's not doing anything. I grab it. Ooh. As long as I'm holding on to it. Now if I move too fast and move out, then I drop it. So now I'm selecting, I let go of the mouse, I'm not selected anymore. If I click on the mouse, it's not doing anything. I click on the item. So I could basically sort, I could stack stuff. We could add a gravity to it. So how about this? We do an if, and if that's not true, then this dot y is going to add, let's say 2. I mean, just going to keep moving down. Oh. So you move it up. Hey, it's moving down. Move it up. It's going to move down. Move it up. Oh no. Ah, I just lost it. So that's how we could use collisions. This would be kind of like a way maybe I wanted to create some type of sorting game, I could do that. I could create, some type of menu screen to put items in. I could create some type of collisions where I have, some other point. The point does not have to be my mouse position. To check if something's there. These are just different ways that I could do this. So maybe I have some type of sorting. Yep, there's all kinds of stuff that we can do. All right, that's it. That is how we would use the library. The main thing is you need to read what pieces of information needs to go in. Now, all of this stuff for this collision is really only going to return true or false. We could, if we need more specific pieces, so for example, if we are doing a collision against a rectangle or a rectangle and circle, we may need actual information in there to do something with it, okay, which we might have to create our own if we have to know exactly what side it hit. But there's other ways that we could break this down. If I was looking in terms of that reference, so let's see, maybe I wanted to do like a pinball game, then instead of doing like a circle hitting a rectangle, I could technically break up the paddle into 3 pieces, this piece, and this piece, and that can be colliding with a line, and I could do that for having it bounce against the line and reverse those directions. So let's see, rectangle, line, circle, or line, rectangle. Let's see, line, circle. Oh, there was a line, circle. So we could have we hit, and then we can reflect. There's other things that we could do if you're trying to make it have, a good bounce that would be realistic, but that is basically it. Okay, that's how we would use collisions. We will end up using these more in detail as we move on. The importing, though, is the same. It has to come after P5.js in the index file, and then we can start using those methods that they describe by reading the README and the references. All right, good luck, have fun.